In this session, our guest will be speaking on how to get 10,000 people on your webinar. So you're going to want to make sure you pay attention and lock in. Today, we're going to be talking about why you should be doing summits if you're doing webinars, the benefits and the impact that it could have tremendously on your business, the economics behind how all of it works, and the foundations to getting everything set up. Today's guest is George Shepard. If you don't know him, he is a copywriter, publisher, and online event specialist with a penchant for online and offline sales. This old school internet marketer launched his first online membership website in 2001. That's kind of crazy. And throughout the years, he's developed high converting systems that he's used to launch more than 100 virtual summits, to produce live events, publish print magazines, and he's also authored over 100 Amazon books. He now focuses on running virtual summits and events under his brand called 360 Summits, which brings the best and brightest educators, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders to share their knowledge and expertise. George, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm super excited about this, Vernon.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you here. So, in your experience, like at a very high level, let's just kind of start at a very high level, because I think there's people that are doing webinars, but they may not have like embarked on this summit journey. And maybe we can unpack all of the stuff that's involved with like maybe the fears and the mistakes and things. But at a high level, why do you feel like people should be doing virtual summits if they already are doing webinars, or if they're going to be doing webinars?
You know, if you think about it, Vernon, like a summit is really just a series of webinars strung together. In a way. So let me back up and give some clarification on that. The wrong way to do a summit is to have everyone be able to pitch their stuff, because you don't want to have 30 different people trying to hawk their stuff. Everyone's going to be confused. And a confused mind makes no decision. But True. It's the content that people tune in for, right? So if you curate an event, like in a virtual summit, around the avatars, pains, fears, and frustrations that you know is going to be good for your audience, you want to buy your program, you're building out a red-hot lead list. Now, the cool thing about summits, there's a few things. First is, not only do you get to build the list, so you own the list, they're red hot, they're ready to rock and roll, they're looking to solve their problem. If you start allowing people to offer their programs on the back end or make pitches, they're going to release the buying tension, and you don't want that. So you want to have them release the buying tension on your product, because they got all this like, you have this genuine reciprocity built up. They're like, I want to buy something. Oh my gosh, Vernon's just hooking me up here, like with all this webinar content. Like my webinar's gonna crush it. What can I buy, Vernon? What can I buy? And so whoever makes that next offer to them, whether it's like a platform for doing webinars or an education scenario, or maybe like helping them do the webinars themselves as an offer, like, hey, I'm gonna coach you through the process, we're gonna partner on it. Like that person's gonna get the sale because they have all this pent up buying frustration that they need to release, right? So that's the one opportunity. So it makes a massive windfall, or what I say, it makes it rain for your summit or for your webinar. Now, the other part of it is it gets JVs excited about promoting your stuff. So if you have certain people who you've always wanted to have promote as a JV partner, you can get them on a summit, do an interview with them, show the audience how awesome they are. And then there's conversations that happen before you hit the record button and after you hit the record button to turn it off. There are sometimes 6-figure, 7-figure more deals. Truthfully, I've personally had those things happen. It's amazing. It's funny, they'll make time for you to do an interview with them, but you'll never get them on a phone call. You'll never get, unless you pay like a $10,000, $100,000 consulting fee or whatever. Like they just won't give you the time of the day, but they'll get on a free interview. The same thing with podcasting. Anyone who has a podcast, they're like, you can have 0 listeners, but you can still do 7 figures with your podcast. It's because I think that's kind of a crappy way of doing business. Because they're getting on a podcast because they want to be seen, right? It's like, It's value for value. But when you do a summit, if you do it the right way, then you could put them in front of an audience, like a stadium full of people. Like I want everyone to think about this for a second. How many times have you been able to speak in front of a stadium? How many speakers can say they've spoken in front of a stadium? 10,000 people is a stadium. All right. Many of our summits have 20,000, 50,000, 60,000 people. Okay. Imagine saying, hey, how'd you like to speak in front of 6 stadiums? I'll give you the 6 stadium tour. It's going to take you 1 hour. Who's going to say no to that? It'd be crazy to say no. They're like, what's the catch? The catch is you show up and you answer my questions. That's not an interrogation, but I'll answer my questions because I'm going to pull the gold that you don't even know sometimes that you have out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what great interviewers like Oprah, like Larry King, and these people, they're able to like bring out the best in people, and they're not expecting it. And this is the other reason why I like doing summits, because someone asked me earlier today that I'm working with on another summit we're doing. He said, well, why wouldn't we just have people give us a PowerPoint presentation or pre-record it as part of the summit? I'm like, well, there's a couple reasons why. The first reason why is they're going to pitch their stuff. You're going to look at their presentation. You know what's going to be in the right-hand corner at the bottom? Their logo or their buy link. Go to buymystuff.com. If you give a good salesperson, a good marketer a chance to pitch, they're going to do it. And the smart ones are going to do it in a way that you don't even see it sometimes. They're going to lead you through to the sale so that their offer is the only logical choice. And that doesn't do you any good because you're trying to sell your own stuff, right, to these people on the summit. That's one reason. The second reason is because, like I mentioned before, you're not going to get some of these people on anyway unless you pay a big speaker fee as their, the honorarium or whatever they want to. There's different speaker fees, right? But you're talking about $20,000, sometimes up to $70,000. But they'll do an interview with you because no one gets paid for interviews.
Yeah.
I've had some booking agents call me too, or I want to talk to them. They're like, "Oh yeah, well the speaker fee is this much." I'm like, "Dude, you're smoking crack." And they're like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "You're smoking crack, bro. Seriously, this is an interview. You're not showing up. You can have no pants on. No one knows."
Right.
You go on stage, you better have pants on, or there's going to be a lawsuit, right? So I mean, that's truthfully what happened. It's just an interesting dynamic. We've had sharks from Shark Tank. We've had some really huge people, presidential candidates on our summits. I mean, if I could just rattle off a list of names, you'd recognize them all. Like the top marketers in the space. Like you can get these people on calls, and I would definitely recommend that. Opens up the JV conversation, really, really easily. So there's deals that can happen on the front and the back. Everyone makes money. You pay them as JV partners. Now they just became your JV manager because what you want to do is you want to have them promote the summit.
Right.
You're not going to get everyone to promote. Like you're going to go to some people and they're going to be like, yeah, I'll be on your summit as an interview, but I don't want to promote. So you have to make a decision at that moment, like, do I take them or do I not? I say take them because it's the relationship that is most valuable. You could make a few bucks by bringing someone else on board and they're going to promote, but it's not going to be anything close to what that relationship could be if you deliver even 2,000 people in front of them to see their thing, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's just amazing what you can do with that.
I totally can see that, and obviously doing the summit, right now, it's been a great lead gen opportunity for JVs and stuff like that. I think maybe one of the challenges, or before we get into this challenge, let's talk about the biggest mistakes because you've done this for a very long time, over 100 events. What would you say today are the biggest mistakes that you see marketers make when they're trying to put together a summit? It sounds like not having people pitch would, like, if people are pitching, that would be a mistake. Asking somebody to do a presentation. Are there any other mistakes that you see that come up?
Yeah, there are a few. First one is trying to do it on Zoom. Not that I don't like Zoom, but if you try to do a live event where you're like, okay, this person's speaking at 3 p.m. and you have to show up, we've done those. We've done every different type of event that's out there. Been more than 20 years of doing this. I've tried everything. Like, don't make the same mistake, skin your knees like I did. Like, just listen for a second. If you try to do a live event where you're telling people to show up, it's great if you're selling a high ticket program right out the gates because you've got their attention, but you will only ever be able to sell to the people who show up. And that's the plague of webinars, right? What's the show up rate? The way that we operate, we don't care what the show up rate is. Like, I don't truly care how many people watch the video. What I care is how many people opted in to watch the summit. Because a couple things happen. First is I have the list. I have multiple times that I can actually nurture that email list to help them take that next step with me. Number two, as soon as they register, they're getting the offer because the next offer is, hey, how'd you like to upgrade to VIP? You can get access right now to all the recordings because it's all pre-recorded. And by the way, we found this is very interesting. The highest converting summits we've ever done have never been pay gate summits. It's always been attend this for free, pre-recorded, and then offer them a chance to get access now by the recordings. VIP is what we call it. You can do backstage pass. We've used a few different things as far as names if you want to stand out and be a little different. For those people who are like, summits are dead and webinars are dead, it's like, yeah, whatever. Go back to whatever you're doing. But
Working for us.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. Like I don't mind. Like keep thinking that way. Keep thinking that way. Keep drinking that Kool-Aid. Like it's cool. Um, those things work really, really well because we get them into the upsell funnel. What do? 10% to 30% of those people, if it's a good offer on the back end, will convert every consecutive upsell. So we use a process. I would write it on the whiteboard back here, but I think I'll explain it,
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
of me getting out of
Break
my
that
chair
down
and
for
doing all
us.
that stuff, right? Because you'll see that I'm only wearing shorts today. I'm not like dressed in my full like presentation
You're
uniform.
gonna have a lawsuit.
Right? It's a summit, right? No lawsuits.
No lawsuits.
So we use speed, ease, access, experience. Now, by the way, you can put this on the back end of your summit or your webinar, and it works really, really well. So what's the next logical thing that's going to add speed to that person's getting results, whatever the pain point you're trying to solve for them is? The second upsell will be what's going to make it easier for them to get the results, like less work for them. Okay, like a software package or some other things like that. Access is going to be how do they access you or the expert or a community of people who are going to be able to, they can ask their questions. They just want their questions answered sometimes. That's going to be your higher ticket stuff like $5, $10, $20,000 stuff. And then experience is going to be something like you want to go hang out with Richard Branson on Necker Island. Join Mavericks or join whatever, right? Or if you want to come hang out with me or you want to go skydiving, or it could be a mastermind offer, or it can be I work with people one-on-one. It's going to be an experience thing that's not just coaching. It's going to be a mixture of coaching, but something that they're never going to forget.
Yeah.
Right. That type of thing. What would we call that? The Sparta offer. I was in a mastermind with some guys, and we kind of coined the term Sparta offer, which is just like, we are Sparta. Yeah, if everyone's seen the 300 movie, it's like 300 people against 10,000. Like, we're going after it. We don't care. Like, that's the Sparta offer. Like, you just don't care. Put it out there and see if they buy. Was it look them in the eye, pitch them high, and watch them buy? I heard that like 25 years ago.
Pitch them high, watch them buy. Smart.
Yeah, it's what happens. People just get scared. They don't do it.
Yeah, so it seems like the win here is that the list, the offers, you talked about doing it free. So like the people out there, obviously you don't want to do it paid, or maybe you test it, I don't know, but it sounds like free. The free keeps the buying tension, which allows you to do the upsells. And you said like on average 10 to 30% of people will convert on each of those upsells.
Each consecutive upsell.
Wow.
Now, if the upsell is not a good fit, you might be at 2 to 5%.
Okay.
It just depends. So, this is marketing, right? We're always testing stuff out.
Right.
But for the most part, if you follow that process, and it's speed, ease, access, experience, and you raise the price like 3x each multiple, you're gonna get a pretty good result. Like 75% of the money that comes in on multi-six-figure summits for us is on the back end after the first purchase, because they have to give us a credit card number, and everything else is a one-click upsell. You also can't be selling something that's going to take a lot of explanation. They have to be very simple yes or no options. And by the way, don't ever give anyone 3 options. Like, you can choose this, this, or this. A confused mind makes no decisions. That doesn't work. Like, if you see someone else doing something, don't automatically assume that it's working. They might be doing the same thing. They saw someone else not working, doing something. That's a good idea. Let's test that. And then everyone's testing that. It's like, it's like a herpes, right? It just goes around. A bad marketing campaign can be like herpes if you get one person that's a good marketer that has a big list, and everyone else sees that and they try to model it. I know nothing about herpes. I'm just saying. I think it's like that. Just for clarity.
Let's talk about the components of, because obviously with the webinar, right, you're like the traffic's important. We talked about the back end offers, right? And it sounded like, if you're doing 75% of the revenues coming from the back end, you got to have that dialed in. But like, what about like traffic and marketing strategies to get people to the actual, event?
Yeah. So in the past, it's always been kind of a tit for tat or a pay to play kind of model, which means if you don't have a list of 5 or 10,000 people, you're not getting on a summit. Now, this is not the way that we operate, but that's the way that most people operate. Like, you have to literally like sign away your firstborn child, and some people would want to do that like happily. But let's just say you don't want to. Say you like your kids, you want to put them. They want you to promote like a ton.
Sure.
So number one, you're going to have a hard time getting really big name people on there because they're just not going to promote. A big name speaker will not draw attendance. So if you get a Tony Robbins or you get, and this personal experience, right? Tony Robbins or whoever else, like that level of speaker, even Sharks from Shark Tank, for example, you're not going to get more people showing up for that event. But what you will do is you will attract sponsors for your event, which is cool because guess what sponsors do? They pay for the paid media. So now you can advertise for free. And we've actually cracked that code. I don't think anyone else has been able to do this yet, but we have a flywheel effect. So when we launch a summit once, we don't launch it once. We launch it once and we take that and we can relaunch it and relaunch it and relaunch it, right? And it goes to paid media only. So we can create custom audiences that we can deselect from the process so that no one sees that offer again until we want them to see the offer again. So we stay in integrity of the whole idea, like, hey, this is your last chance. Because there's been a lot of FTC issues out there with people saying, hey, look, if you say it's the last time to get this, it better darn be the last time to get it. Otherwise, we're going to come get you, right?
Right.
It's $40,000 for each infraction or whatever they wanted to make up some crazy number. But that's the idea. So this is how you to keep that in integrity. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not trying to pretend one, on the sitcom that we're having here today. But the whole idea there is like just try to keep your offers legit. Mm-hmm. And if you're saying it's going away, make sure it goes away for that person at least.
Sure.
For a period of time. And you're not saying it's never going to come back unless you say this is the last time you're ever going to see this in your lifetime. Which I don't think anyone can say that legitimately. But let's just say that that's the case. So that's ways that you get the traffic. So we get traffic from paid media, but we also get traffic from affiliates still. Okay. And one thing we learned too, Vernon, which I think is really interesting, and doing this for 20 plus years, everything used to be a 50-50 deal. And I've seen a lot of people go down to 40%. Like, hey, we're going to give a 40%. I'm like, why are these people becoming so cheap? Like, why are you only giving me 40% commissions? Or we'll give you 35%. It's like, really? Seriously, you're just going to keep taking money out of my kids' mouths? Or food out of their mouths, right? Money in their mouths, that would be bad. Bad parenting. They will do a pay per lead easier than they'll do a percentage commission. Because I started thinking about the psychology of this. For example, if we say, you're going to send people your webinar, I'm going to pay you on a per lead basis. $1 to $3. We use a sliding scale. Okay, so the more leads you send, the more you get paid, up to $3 per opt-in, right? You have to send good traffic, because if your traffic doesn't convert, like at the average of the summit, like we'll just revert you to 50% commission. That's how we do it. So you're always going to get something. It's just a matter of like, if you're sending us a bunch of people from Bangladesh who are getting paid a penny to opt in, and you're paying $300, and you're going to make $3,000 in commissions, like we can see that. Right. So you can't game the system, right? So we have all those things in place, but they'll fall over themselves. You'll actually recruit better affiliates and more affiliates by offering that. And again, I'm giving you something that's going to work for summits, but this would work for your webinars just as well. This might be a huge takeaway, for you guys. I'm not sure if anyone's mentioned this yet, but this is working in so many different verticals right now. I would definitely recommend to try that for your affiliates and get more affiliates to recruit to actually promote your events.
Super smart. In terms of the ads piece, you said you guys have that really dialed in. Is there like so I know like a lot of the guys that I know who do webinars, they say, hey, like if you don't have a minimum of like, what do they say, like $5 or $6 grand a month or to spend on traffic to like start to fill your webinars, then like you probably need to wait till you can spend that consecutively. Is there like a ideal budget? I know everything's probably different, but like, is there like an ideal budget people should be like looking for, or like when they're promoting their summit, like from the traffic
Here's the
standpoint?
interesting part. I don't want to take any money out of anyone's pockets when it comes down to the agency model, but the agencies have been the gatekeepers for far too long, and it's time that we all rise up. Actually, we don't have to do that. Facebook has allowed us to do that. The Facebook algorithm has gotten so good that if you do broad targeting in a lot of cases, the pixel will learn. The problem is people get very impatient and greedy. So they'll spend like $50, and it's like, okay, we got some opt-ins. Okay, great. $500 a day. It's like, boom. And you're going to get bad traffic. You're going to start blowing your money. The best thing to do is like to spend slow increments, $50 a day, all the way up until you train that pixel for buyers, not for opt-ins, because it's going to give you all kinds of crazy stuff if you get opt-ins. And there's obviously certain English-speaking countries or non-English speaking, that's first language, but they have a second language propensity for English. All those countries you can target, or just keep it wide open because it will learn over time, right? So I would say if you have to test this out, at least $5,000 is my suggestion. Like when we do a summit, like that's the absolute minimum we'd want to test anything with is a $5,000 offer. Okay. But most of the time we'll be spending $1,000 a day up to $2,000 a day. But we've recouped that money because the way we do the back out the lead cost, we'll recoup that money within 3 to 7 days, and we'll spend it
Nice.
again. So, for
Wow.
example, we did a summit, and I think we had $18,000 we kind of set aside just in case, so we could spend it, lose it if we really needed to, but we'd get the traffic on there. We had 61,000 opt-ins. By the way, this is nearly
61,000.
all paid media. 61,000.
Wow.
We had 8,000 of those 61,000 came from affiliates. So we had 50, what is that number? 54, 55,000 people
Yep.
straight from paid media. We spent $78,000 in paid media costs.
Mm.
But how did we do that? We only had $18,000. Well, we kept spending the money again and again and again. We'd spend it,
Mm.
recoup it, spend it, recoup it, spend it, recoup it. We did like that wasn't a huge grand slam. We did like $95,000, $96,000 in sales from that. So we just a little over broke even, but we had no back end.
Got it.
Imagine that for a
End.
second.
That's where the back
No
end comes
back
to
end.
it. Yeah, yeah.
The only offer was, get the summit recordings for I think it was a $37 or something like that.
Big mistake there, huh? They wishing they had some
Well,
upsells on it.
so here's something else that I learned over time. This was a mistake. Whenever I worked with an agency in the past, there's always been a problem. So we try not to interface with anyone who makes us work with their agency because it never goes right. The agency and the person we partnered with on that summit, they made a decision behind my back. And that decision was, we're going to run a retreat. I'm like, cool, this is going to be good. We wrote the copy, we got the VSLs, it's all going to be good. And a month from now, we're going to solve their problem. They went and changed the retreat dates for 3 months in the future. I'm like, who's buying a retreat to solve their problem today, 3 months in the future? Like, okay, well, I can wait for that problem to be solved. Like, no.
Yeah.
So no one bought the back end. So there were upsells, but literally like no one bought the upsells. So you got to be a little bit careful sometimes when you're working with other people, at least in the summit scenario.
Sure.
You have to interface with the decision makers, and you have to have a good rule. Like I've got a whole rule sheet that we give people. We do an onboarding call in the very beginning, say this is what we do.
Sure.
And one of the things, the very last two things, you remember this, Vernon, was don't hire outside experts to tell us how to run summits.
Yep.
Imagine that for your webinars. Don't hire an outside webinar expert to tell you how to run webinars. It
Right.
just creates so much friction, and people want to look good. They're a bit egotistical. Everyone's a narcissist if you look
Sure.
at it, right? And at least in some degree, and they don't want to look bad. So they're going to throw you under the bus pretty quick. So just be aware of that when you're doing your summits. Try not to interface with agencies because they will take you off the rails thinking that they know better than you. And truthfully, no one's ever done as many summits as I've ever met. And for as long as we've been doing it, so this stuff is golden. Take it like this is gospel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of gold here for sure, from the traffic and having that 5K budget, the back end upsells, the speed, the ease, the access, the experience. Is there, like, in terms of like when you're like the promotion window, is it like a webinar is typically like 7 days, right? So for the summit, I know you're saying you're relaunching it. Initially, is it 7 days? Is it 3 days, or how do you, or does it depend on like the number of speakers?
Good question. So this is how we do it when we put our summits together. First off, it can never be too long. It can just be too boring or irrelevant to the audience. So some people are like, well, how many speakers do you need to have? Well, I try to shoot for between 20 and 30 if you can. We've done multiple six figures with less than 20 speakers before. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of the content. Did you solve the problem that someone opted in to solve is the challenge? Or at least do they believe now that they can solve the problem with your help? Kind of what we all do with webinars, right? You only get them for 90 minutes or maybe up to 3 hours to solve their problem, or at least instill the belief that you can solve their problem for them. But we're actually delivering a lot of content, building up a lot of that buying tension, right? So when we do the summits, I'm trying to think what was the question again?
In terms of the I think where we were going was you were talking about the I think I lost it too. But essentially, let me take a step back. But essentially, with the we weren't talking about the offers. We were talking about I'm drawing a blank too.
Well, we're talking about Facebook ads a moment ago with 5,000 budget and with
Yeah,
we're
so
talking
we yeah,
about
we
that.
talked about the back end, we talked about the front end. Okay, I was talking about the promotion window. So it's typically 7 days with a webinar.
Right, right.
With a
Okay, sorry.
summit, you're probably doing
Two
I'd
months.
imagine it's based how long is it?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, what? Did you just say 2 months? Yeah, 2 months. So here's what we do at the production process. It's roughly like 2 weeks to write copy, a week and a half to write the copy, get all that stuff organized. And then it's doing interviews for about a month and a half. So that's what I was saying. The whole idea of you want more speakers or less is like how long you can get the interviews done, right? So if you
Sure.
want to do less speakers, like 10 speakers, 20 speakers or something, it's going to take you less time to do it, right? So it's not about how much value you're going to get out of if you have more speakers. By the way, too, the more speakers you have, if you go up over 50 speakers, you'll start seeing negative conversions
Hmm.
because no one's ever going to listen to that. That's actually psychologically what they've told us. I'll never listen to that stuff. So just like stop at 30-ish,
Right.
to save yourself a hassle and headache. So the window of that, we open the cart, or I should say, open up the offer window about 2 months in advance. We want to give plenty of time to train that pixel. It's going to take a good 2 to 3 weeks minimum to get enough seasoning on that pixel so it understands. So here's what you want to do. You want to incentivize your affiliates to mail early so that it can start learning who the buyers are
Interesting.
as well.
Yeah.
You can start creating custom audiences and everything else. And you start out the paid media side, $50 a day, boom, 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 boom. I would recommend that you set a separate URL for your paid media versus your main media. But still, you've got the pixel, that you have two custom audiences being created. One that's running from like Facebook or YouTube, and then one that's running from your affiliates. So that you can track. Because they're different. They're very different type of people. We find that 8 to 12% of the people who opt in for the summit for free will end up buying the recordings if they're coming from someone else's email list, which is pretty high.
Hmm.
Like webinars are the only thing that compete with that. Most people who try to do a virtual event, you're lucky to crack 2%.
Right.
Most people. You're lucky to crack 200 people showing up for your live Zoom too. Like it's just you're not going to have. I mean, you're crushing it if you have 200 people show up. Truthfully, for one of those live events. Most of the time, like we'll have thousands and thousands of people. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's law of averages.
Okay. That
Um,
makes sense. Yeah.
but yeah, that 2 month window is really really important, and then we end it to kind of put a cap on what you were saying. So we end the offer like as a PLF Jeff Walker style type of thing. Like you got to get it. Like here's the last week to get it, end it, done. Then we wait for about a week or so as we're flipping the dates and we're changing the way that we do summits. Like well, I should say the when it's going to be launched. Sometimes we pick a different URL if we
Yeah.
want to and relaunch the launch on a different URL, so that if they go back to the old URL, they won't see it's being relaunched again. That would just piss me off if I'm a customer, but like
Sure.
you told me it was going to be ending and it's still on. Like
Sure.
I'd be pretty upset with that. But if you set the thing out so it's not happening again for another 2 months, they got to wait 2 months to get access to it. Because think about this: 90% of those people who got on the list didn't even they didn't buy, they didn't see your offer, they didn't see any of that other stuff that's in your funnel. So
Hmm.
you've got a chance to nurture them with these other offers. If they're going back to that page, they'll be like, okay, the next free date's going to be in 2 months. They can choose to opt in or not opt in again. Most of the time, if they're already opted in for it, they're probably not going to opt in again.
Right.
But let's say they do, then they'll see the VIP offer again. So
Okay.
one thing I don't recommend doing is raising the price. I've seen people say, well, just raise the price $100. It's like if you really want it, you're going to pay $100 for it. Like who cares? It doesn't actually do what you're supposed to do. It doesn't create scarcity. It's not legitimate scarcity. Like the
Right.
scarcity is not save myself $100. The scarcity is it's going away. Darn it! I'm
Yeah.
going to miss out on solving this big problem of mine,
Yeah.
right? Or my competitor's going to get it before I do. That's a better type of scarcity than like we're going to raise the price $100.
Yeah, makes sense. So for now that like let's say we've already done a summit, we've crushed it, we've got like all these upsells, we're relaunching it into the future. But I have this list now. I have this captive audience of people who had this extremely high pain point. Maybe we've solved it with the upsells, but there's obviously still people that aren't like that haven't bought or haven't converted. Is this where you would recommend the webinar coming into play? And then like, how soon do you start hitting that list with like the webinar? Would you
Yeah.
recommend?
Here's what I would do. Here's the cool thing. If you do it with Facebook, for example, you own the lead. You're not paying an affiliate. If you're paying, by the way, per lead, you've already paid the affiliate because they're not getting a back end percentage, right? You could sell them whatever you want because you don't have to give any commissions on that. So when is the right time for the avatar to be introduced that offer? Some people are ready to buy now. Some offers, there's a high point of pain. They just want to solve it right now. So you don't want to wait and say, well, I have to nurture them for 3 months. You don't need to nurture people for 3 months when they have to make a simple buying decision, right? Get them into that buying mode. So if it's paid media type of thing, my suggestion is start the nurture campaign, and until they buy your product, keep the nurture campaign going.
Got it.
Like it never ends. Just keep developing, like give good value, right?
Sure.
You might be like give, ask, meaning like you're giving, but there's a link like in a PS or something about checking your survey, or getting into your product, or getting on a strategy call or something. It's a very like low friction kind of soft pitch.
Sure.
As you're building value, and then like every 5 or 6 of those, like I'm gonna give value, then make a hard offer, which is just straight up. It's going on one of the emotional reasons why they're not taking action. Procrastination, right? Overwhelm. Stop getting in your own way. Like those are some really good ways of disguising just a hard pitch with kind of a content, because they're going to know they're going to be in that space. They'll be like, yeah, you're right. I need to get off the fence.
Right.
Yes, I am my own worst enemy. I'm self-sabotaging again. You bring them to that realization that it's not okay to stay where they're at, and they'll move.
Beautiful.
It's costing them more to be where they're at right now than it is for them just to take your offer, or at least start down the path of that offer. So there's no bad time to pitch them. It's just a matter of like that's why we give them an offer as soon as they opt in. Give them an offer immediately. You don't need to wait. Like everyone says, well, they haven't consumed the content. How do they know if they want it? If your summit's done the right way, they don't even need to see the offer. The offer is like solve your problem. Here's 20 of the world's leading experts that are here to solve your problem. It's $97. And by the way, if it doesn't work, you 100% refund. We're going to give you 90 days. Use this stuff for 90 days. Listen to one speaker every 3 days to solve your problem, and you'll still have 90 days if you really want. I won't say it like that, but I mean that's how the math works out. If you still
90-day guarantee sounds
90-day guarantee.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of refunds from your side with people? Okay.
1% or less.
Yeah, that's
PayPal has specifically come to me and said you have the lowest amount of refunds we've ever seen in internet marketing.
Wow.
We deliver so much value. I mean,
you should get a plaque for that one to hang in the back.
They should, and people have the YouTube plaques and the 2 comic clubs. Like I should have a PayPal plaque that says like nearly refunds. 0 refunds, right?
Yeah. Cool, man. So for the people, I know we've covered a lot. For the people out there who may want to get started into summits, like what would you recommend as a next best step? I mean, I know 10,000. Like people would love to get 10,000 people on their summit. Like I don't know if that's if it's a baby step thing, but what would you recommend for the marketer out there who's like, I want to do this, I want to jump in? Where would you recommend them start?
So first thing I'll just say is this: watch out for the bad actors, because after the COVID thing happened, every person who did live events all of a sudden became a virtual event expert. There's a bunch of people out there saying that I'm an expert at this, and they have no business at all doing virtual events. They're lucky to have even done 1 or 2. They were getting coffee for someone who did a virtual event once, and that's how we did this big virtual event, like find out they actually were delivering coffee to them or something. They're just not qualified to really handle this. So just be careful of working with somebody, because there's a lot of people that try to coach people through the process. Most of those people come to me afterwards, and they're like, yeah, I already paid this guy like a ton of money, and it didn't work out well, and I wish I would have found you first.
Sure.
That's what usually I hear. So what I would suggest you do, there's 2 ways of doing it. First thing is, success loves speed, which means just do it.
Yep.
Make it happen. Right? It might be a little scary in the beginning. If you don't want to take the risk and you're like, I don't want to take the time and screw it up or whatever else, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to talk you through it, whether we decide to work together or not.
Sure.
I'll tell you if your idea has legs, or, you can obviously see I'm an open book, Vernon. I mean, I want to have all summits. Like, let's make summits great again. I mean, I should get the hat. Now, truthfully, like, summits have always been great. The people that say that they're dead, I'm not sure what's going on with them, right?
It's just not working for them.
Childhood trauma that they're dealing with or something. They haven't figured that out. They have mommy daddy issues. But it's true. Like, summits are always going to be great because people want information, and they want information from a reliable source. Yep. And until ChatGPT or AI becomes all-seeing, all-knowing in our lives, which it's on the way to becoming that way, summits will always be the place that people get information, whether it's a physical event, a digital event, whatever it is. So I would say just get out there, put together a small summit. 5 to 15 people,
Hmm.
in your industry, have everyone promise to promote it together. That's how you create like the syndicate, right? And then boom, launch it. And then here's the way that you want to make that work. Tell everyone who's participating, as long as you get at least 300 opt-ins, we'll send an email to the list that's your offer. So, because sometimes you can't afford to pay people in advance, or you might not know a lot of people. That's how you incentivize them. Just say, hey,
Yeah.
look, everyone here who gets at least this many opt-ins will get a bite at the apple. Now, here's the key. In the order in which you sent the most. So the person who sends the most traffic would get the email first to the list. Right? They don't get the list. Don't sell the lead. That's actually illegal and unethical, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Don't sell the list to them. They don't get it. But you can send a dedicated email out to that list. So I would
Into a
say
drop.
just go out there and make it happen. If you want to cut the headaches and stuff like that, like have a chat with myself or someone else
Yeah.
who has done over 100 summits
Hmm.
successfully, and then they're probably going to be able to help you out, with that. But yeah,
If the people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to find you, George?
truthfully, I'll tell you the best way. Inside of the VIP pass for this summit, we've got the registration link so you can actually get on my calendar. You can talk with my assistant. We'll set up a time, just private one-on-one. We'll have a chat. I want to incentivize action. So show me that you're serious about
Yeah.
learning the stuff and just get the VIP pass.
Yeah.
Truthfully, that's part of my bonus is
Speaking
just
of
having that answer.
speaking of VIPs, the perfect segue. If you haven't already upgraded to the VIP bonus pass, you want to make sure you grab that below. We're gonna have the transcripts, we're gonna have the recordings, the MP3s, everything that's included in the bonuses. So grab that by clicking the button below and upgrading. And remember, once this event is over, it goes away forever, and you won't have access to it anymore. George, thank you so much, man. This has been incredible. Lots of gems here. The front end, the back end, the JV partners, the speed, ease, access. This is really cool, man. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and look forward to having you back in the future.
You bet. Sounds good. Thanks, Vernon.
You got it.